When the colonizers came to Africa back in 1900, they demarcated the land and they caused irreversible alienation of the people of Africa up to this day. So the people of Africa have been divided along the colonial lines ever since, and a lot of lives have been lost, a lot of bloodshed has happened, and now it's time to correct that. Welcome to Global Love 254, and today I'm going to be talking about borderless Africa stroke visa-free Kenya. So yeah, the African leaders have been agitating for borderless Africa, which simply means dropping or abolishing the visa requirement for travelers across Africa, and not just across Africa, but of course from all walks of life. So that simply means you don't need a visa to visit some of these African countries, and by now we're talking about 5 countries which have so far enacted the visa-free travels from all over the world into their countries. Now let me major my focus on Kenya, which is my country. So at the start of this year, the president of this country, William Ruto, introduced the visa-free travels to Kenya for visitors from all over the world.
It is with great pleasure, as president of this extraordinary country, to make a historic announcement of the decision of the government of Kenya. Beginning January 2024, Kenya will be a visa-free country. It shall no longer be necessary for any person from any corner of the globe to carry the burden of applying for a visa to come to Kenya.
And obviously that was meant to boost the tourism industry in the country, which is actually the biggest earner of the biggest booster to the GDP of the country. So let's talk about the travels across Africa. 80% of the travels that happen in Africa are across, of course, across Africa. Okay, so only 20% of the visitors that visit this country, Kenya, come from outside Africa. So we're talking about 80% travels within Africa, and now we're talking about a visa-free visit to Kenya. This is the thing. It was perceived, and a lot of people have always complained that the visa requirement is hectic and it has a lot of bureaucracy, which pushes back the visitors who want to visit these countries across Africa. And why are we even talking about this? First of all, these colonial boundaries, which the African leaders are pushing for an erasure or to do away with the borders, were created by the colonialists in 1900. So the people of Africa have been divided by these boundaries, and that has caused a lot of bloodshed. A lot of lives have been lost because the people view each other as aliens, which is not the case. We are all African people, black people. We belong to the land. It is our inheritance, and we are one people. Now, the African leaders have realized that these colonial boundaries have caused irreversible damage. It's time to just do away with them. So in that case, 5 countries so far have adopted the visa-free travels into their countries, obviously, as I said, to boost tourism, but as well enhance free movement of people and goods across the continent. Okay, now in the case of Kenya, the abolishment of the visa comes with a new requirement or a new policy called the electronic travel authorization, ETA, which requires you to file 3 days prior or apply 3 days prior to your travel. So that simply means you'll now have to apply for that ETA 3 days prior to your travel, which a lot of people again have complained that it's hectic as well, and it doesn't solve the problem of acquiring the visa. First of all, the visa requirement was or rather you would have paid $51 to acquire the visa. Okay, now the ETA or the electronic travel authorization requires you to pay $31, only $31. So that is around $20 less, but it now comes at a different cost. I talked about the 3 days requirement, which of course you have to apply 3 days prior to your travel, and a lot of people find that so hectic. And now that also includes some of these countries which didn't even require you to have a visa to come into the country. So the fact that you don't have to have a visa, it means that you have to have the ETA, and as I said, you have to apply online, obviously through the e-Citizen, which is a Kenyan app where the Kenyan services or government services are found. So now you have to apply for that travel document or authorization 3 days prior and have to pay $34. It's not that one, it's $34 to process that small document. So the thing is, after applying for the ETA through the e-Citizen, the Kenyan app, as I said, after waiting for 3 days and the process has matured, then you can proceed with your travel. Now, I said earlier that the Kenyan government is aiming to achieve at least $9 billion through tourism, which, as I said earlier, is the biggest income earner for this country. As well, enhance the free movement of people and goods across Africa, enhance trade, and of course, far and above all, enhance the integration of the African people in this continent. Okay, I talked about the alienation that happened during colonization and the damage that has come through that, all these years, all these lives lost, and all the ethnocentric narratives that there has been around, the ethnocentric culture, the toxic nationalism. All this damage has happened simply out of colonization. Now, after the borders and the boundaries have been broken down, we are expecting that the African people will once more be integrated amongst ourselves and enhance our trade and travels, and of course promote our culture as a people, because you realize as well that colonization didn't only break the social fabric but as well eroded the culture. The Africans right now don't have a culture. Okay, we are all westernized, and it's time now to reclaim our sovereignty as a people and bring back our culture and our traditions, because honestly, that was better than what we have right now. Okay, as much as the world is moving closer towards globalization, but as well, it is imperative that every people keep their culture and their traditions, because that's who they are. That's who that's what defines them. Okay, you lose your culture, you lose your everything. You lose your culture, you lose your identity. So yeah, the biggest goal here in terms of breaking the boundaries and abolishing the visas is to integrate the people, enhance movement of goods and people across the continent, and of course boost trade globally. So we hope that that's gonna help integrate the people and end with the violence that has been witnessed in the African continent all these years, and end with the lives that have been lost so far and the damage that have been caused, and of course promote peace and Pan-Africanism across the continent. You know, I've been your host, Global Love 254. Find me on all social media accounts: Facebook, X, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. See you in the next video.